Good afternoon. I'd like to call the April meeting of the Connersville Board of Aviation Commissioners to order. And I'd like to accept a motion to approve the minutes of the previous meeting.
Make a motion.
Second.
We have a motion, a second, discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Approval of the claims.
Move to approve the claims.
We have a motion.
Second.
We have a second. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Engineers report.
There he is.
There.
Hey, Paul.
Hey, how are you? Two. Sorry about that.
Good timing, you're up.
I'm up.
You're on engineers report.
All right. Well, we've got some steel being delivered to the site. Is that right, Nathan?
Yep.
All right, good. And the door is supposed to be here next week. So they're supposed to be starting on foundations here in the next week or so and rocking and rolling. They did submit a pay application. We're not gonna ask you to pay that right now. Technically, they can ask for payment of stored materials, but we're not. We want to see a little more progress before we pay them anything. So that's that. There was one deal, the FAA responded back to the airspace case that was submitted quite a while ago. And that basically came back and it was, honestly, I didn't really think about this when we were putting it there. It was the grass runway transitional surface off the side. That building, the corner of it, it doesn't impact any minimums because it's a visual runway, so there is no approach minimums to it. But they want a red light on the top of it. Yeah. So we did request a change order price for them. This is a dual LED obstruction light. So the nice thing about that is it should last a long time. You shouldn't have to get up there and change the bulbs and things. Assuming the LED functions properly. It does have a 3-year warranty on that fixture, which the building only has a 1 year, but the manufacturer has a 3-year warranty on the fixture if it does break. So for the fixture and to install it and all that, it's an additional $5,426.19, which is a 0.41% add to the contract. We're well under the 20% maximum the state allows. So hopefully we don't have any others, but that's kind of one that I don't think we really have much of a choice since the FAA says we have to do that. The only other option we could do is we could try to shop it around outside of the contract if we wanted to do that. Honestly, based on what I've seen other places, I think it's a pretty reasonable change. So that's the only action I have today is that item, and then I'll give.
So we need a motion to approve change order 1. For the hangar project in the amount of $5,400.
Yes, for motion.
Yeah.
Make motion.
We have a motion. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And it's so moved. Okay.
Yeah, and I should mention it. The airspace did come back, has no impact to the runway. Last meeting, we talked about the airfield lighting repairs. Have those
Yep.
all been done?
Yeah, we got a
You
certificate.
got your certificate? Cool. Cool. And then the only other thing, I got an email from you, Nathan, on a.
Yeah. Yeah, gas station.
Yeah.
South of Burger King.
Yes, I got that too.
Yeah. Was there any,
There's no impact on us, I don't
I didn't
think.
think so, but I told her I would ask.
No, I ran the height. I mean, you could have something that's basically 80 feet tall right there and not
Okay.
be in the approach.
Right,
Now, technically, for the FAA, it's half of that, so you'd be about 40 feet. If they're going to be over 40 feet during construction, then technically they're supposed to file for a permit for a temporary, like if they've got any cranes setting canopy or something like that. But I think, if I'm not mistaken, Walmart is north of there, right? And it's,
Yes.
yeah,
and that probably has poles taller than 40 feet in the parking lot, I'm guessing.
So,
I don't know the answer to that. Yeah. So the way the rule works is if there's another object that's shadowing, if it, if they're gonna put up a 30-foot tall building and they need a 50-foot crane, if you've got a 50-foot object between the end of the runway and where your object is, then you don't have to file with FAA. You probably would ask them to let you know. So you
Note 'em.
issue a
Yeah.
notum that there's a crane just so many feet,
okay,
4,000 feet south of the
okay, yeah,
runway threshold.
okay.
Otherwise, if they're below 40 feet, they don't even need to file anything.
Thank you.
And that's all I had for today.
does this require signatures?
Yeah, I'll give you a copy here.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Let's move on to old business.
I did reach out toward, I think I sent everybody an email for the airstrip attack. His name's, yeah, Jason, this guy I think it's, I've been talking with. He's going to be in town for the Indy 500. So we know if we can meet on May 26th, which is Memorial Day, from 12 to 2 or 3, I think.
At the airport?
Yeah. And so I told him I would be there, he'd like to know, he didn't specifically say at that time he had to meet with, the mayor or a fire chief or somebody that could be in charge, help out with just planning and whatnot, but might be a good idea if we could get somebody there, outside of just me, to.
I'll plan to attend.
Okay.
And Mr. Mayor?
I cannot that day. I've already got that whole day.
Okay, because of the nature of what this is, you think maybe Scott, if he's not,
Talk to him and see.
would.
What time's he coming?
Said he's gonna be here from 12 to 3. Now, I mean, it could be 1 to 2, 1 to 2. I mean, I don't know. I can reach back out to him and really pin that down,
Well, I think it might help, especially since it's on a holiday. If he could send us an outline of one, his discussion points,
Mhm.
and two, his requirements.
Yeah.
And that would give us, an opportunity to review those things.
Either way, I'm assuming you have to file for a state permit. So he's going to have a drawing showing locations of everything. I'm assuming state, is that an event permits? Yeah, it would still apply to airport. There's a way to do that when we got our event permit. There's a way to have drawings showing literally everything where people want to be, where tents, anything you want to be at.
Yeah.
Yeah. The rule is to, if you're gonna close the runway for any purpose, you basically have to submit an airspace plan.
Really, what he had to do is put a drawing and Scott can review the drawing, be the easiest way.
I think he would probably do it after that. I think he wants to see the runways and whatnot. Of course, he can get on Google Earth and look at them. But I mean, he didn't specifically say. I think he wanted us to come and look physically, tangibly what we've got. It would be for May 2026, I think, is when he's looking to, get it going. But obviously, planning starts now. There's a possibility, just like for the event we had a couple years ago, closing runway 422. Obviously, they would keep 1836 open. And I don't know that. He may not want to close 422 or maybe not need it. Be just wondering about staging of vehicles and parking and things of that nature and kind of the layout itself. But yeah, I think just because he's in town, it's going to swing out, and take a look. And we haven't got a definitive answer on like, oh yeah, we definitely will show up. It's pretty much like, yeah, we need to come out and take a look at it and just kind of get a feel for it kind of thing. And then we can move forward from there. So, but yeah, I'll reach back out to him and try to get some more concrete, like you said, some talking points and some things that he wants and things that really needed and who he would really like to have there in attendance. And I'll get back. I'll send an email back out.
I can send you a plan from another airport
Okay.
that we used.
Yeah, that'd be fine. I know it's the same company that was at Marion.
Okay.
Last year. I don't know if you work with Marion or not.
I don't have Marion's plan, but
Okay.
we have one from Frankfurt that. But if they have the Marion plan, they can probably just recycle it.
Yeah.
Or you guys just change it around a little bit.
Okay.
Any other additional old business? Let's move on to new business. I noticed we have some, yes?
They were here last. time as well.
Meeting. Yes.
They were here to discuss, possibly, doing, renting, yeah, Quonset hunt instead of their 4 different hangars.
Oh, okay.
Is that why you're still attending or
Yeah, well,
to get an answer?
number one, we just like the airplanes, kind of like to see what you guys are doing. You guys get a lot done. It's kind of fun to watch the proceedings here. But besides that, we talked to you last meeting about renting the Quonset hut and maybe starting a shop in there.
Yeah, as you can tell, we did not really discuss or have any discussions with the members that were missing
Yeah.
from the last meeting. So I did have it noted in the minutes. So we probably still need to discuss more. I don't think I did mention your interest in putting in a shop after so long.
Yeah.
I didn't know what kind of timing you were looking at that or.
Well, needed to wait till the door was on before I could put anything in there. It sounds like that's happening as we speak.
Yeah.
For the fact, and all the hardware show up here today. So yeah, as soon as the Quonset hunts be able to be occupied and I can put airplanes and equipment in there, then I'd probably move in.
So the original price that we sent them was 1,000 and they're asking if we could lower it to 800. And we said, well, plus utilities, because that was the original. So, but as I said, you guys weren't here, so we didn't give them an answer.
But does the fact that we're looking at putting a business in there as opposed to using it for its intended purpose of storage, does that impact the price?
And I don't know if that would change our language that we needed in the rental agreement or not.
Would we be open to a tiered rental price to where we start at one price, then we start to slowly escalate up to the 1,000 we're asking for? Is that an option?
And that, I don't mean to be confrontational, but I don't think the 1,000 is a ridiculous price. You might have a better feel than I, but
What kind of income was we looking at just hangar airplanes in there?
As far as us as a board,
Well, yeah, what do
We were looking at $1,000 plus utilities is what we were, or
what we thought we could
yes.
return on.
I think Jeff was the one that helped us.
with that number, yeah.
Mhm.
And I think if you break it down, you can put 5 airplanes in there, I think. Isn't that correct?
Yeah, so I've got several airplanes and right now the hangars are $200 a month and that includes utilities. So if I could have everything under one roof and maybe save some money, then allows you to rent out the other hangars, it seemed like a little bit of a win-win. So I'd have to have use for 5 T hangars I've got use for 4 right now. Which comes up to 800, so at 1,000, I'm better off just having 4 T hangars. Now, as far as business goes, I'm not talking about anything big. I'm talking about when I'm out here doing annuals and 100 hours once in a while, somebody breaks down or having some oil and some filters on the shelf, things like that. Somebody transient needs to replace a tire or something like that. Start out small scale. I got to retire in about 5 years from the airline, so then that'd be nice to have a side gig until then. But the numbers, it crosses the line. Right now I've got 4 airplanes that need a home, and $200 a month in a T hangar satisfies that at $800 a month. Don't have to have a big hangar, just that'd be easier, and that would allow the city to get some income from it.
Everyone's quiet. Discussion or?
I'm just thinking, yeah, I mean, I certainly see where you're coming from at 200 a hanger at 4. Yeah, sorry, the chair's in the
No
way.
problem.
200 an anchor, 4 anchors, 800, including utilities. The issue is if it has capacity to fit 5 planes in it, and I know 5 planes is discretionary. I mean, it might be kind of tough, but then we look at that. If we agreed, I'm just thinking out loud here. If we agreed, hey, we could swap, you would just do 800. And then all of a sudden there's 5 planes in there.
Mhm.
We look at it from a board standpoint to think, well, we're missing out on hangar rent that we could be getting, and then there's also some level of liability, even if there is just minor things you're doing there that obviously fire hazard, I mean, all those things that are beyond, and our legal counsel's not here, but, we look at that. And then utilities too, as far as, any possibility of a welder you're putting in with 220 that would need 220, anything like
No,
that?
the only thing that I'd have that would happen, I mean, the lights would be nice. If I got in there, I'd probably put in some more LED lighting, which is negligible on the pricing.
Correct. Yeah.
The only thing I'd run with 220 would be maybe an air compressor, and wouldn't even have to have that. Doing a compression check, you don't need much of a compressor. So
Yeah.
Be in there sandblasting fuselage frames or anything like that.
Right.
Just like I said, store the airplanes in there, and then maybe a mini fridge to put it soda in. About it.
Didn't, our former tenant pay utilities?
Yeah, he's not disputing that he would agree with the utilities.
Naming us as an additional insured.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that would be the right way to go.
Should we talk to Ann about liability with the business in there as far as what we want?
But I think we were just saying his insurance would have to name us as additional insured to provide coverage for us.
Or maybe a whole heart, we need whole harness.
We can talk to him.
Yeah, I mean, either one.
We want your business.
Yeah.
Well, most importantly, we want your money.
Yeah.
I think that's, but, we have some hurdles that, of some issues that we have to make sure.
The one thing is too, we are putting on spending 75,000 for a door.
With the main door and all that, I think
Right.
we're
100.
went up to 100 for the additional work.
Yeah. I mean, there is, I do think that personally, I think that raises the value of the rent that you're increasing the amenities, and the quality of the door that you're getting. It being a powered door, not a current sliding door. Nathan, how much demand is there now for T hangers?
3 or 4 people want.
Okay, they're pretty serious about
Yeah.
it. If you called them today and said, "Hey, we have a T hanger available," they'd say, "Where do I sign?"
Yep.
Okay.
We want 1,000, he wants 800, split the difference.
I'm
Well,
okay.
but aren't our rates going up?
We increased them last time in the first
First time in 10 years.
Yes.
It's a couple years ago, 150 to 200. And
Yep. And I thought the discussion at that time was that we were gonna look at doing that on a more regular basis. And
Every 2
10
years though.
Yeah.
Oh, every 2 years, you said?
I said, that was my question was that what we were discussing, increasing it every 2 years? To review every 2 years.
Part of this is, like I said, the city would benefit by having the ability to have somebody work, keep some parts around, and there's a little bit of a benefit for the city as well, and users, transients that come through. I've got Inc. on the hook to work through the summertime or hang out if something's going on and I need some help. So even when I'm at work, he'll be available. So if it makes available parts and maintenance on the field that's not here currently.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Tim. I think, I would say let's start at 900. And then if we're looking to raise rates in 26, we could talk about that then.
That's fine. I mean,
But
I just want you to be aware that because we screwed up as a board and didn't raise rates for 10 years.
I think was even longer than 10 years.
But you didn't have to say that.
Well, I mean, I've been around for 10 years. So,
Okay,
How long has the big hangar been empty? The concept.
what, 3 months?
not that long.
Been empty.
Well, it's about a year now.
Yes, it's been empty for a year now.
Mhm.
So if I moved in at $800 a month, then you'd be able to rent the hangars that I'm in, or the hangar that I'm in right now. You have somebody lined up to go into that, but you have somebody lined up to go in the Quonset.
I don't think anybody else knows it's available yet either.
Well, yeah, I have to contact an insurance company and see how much, insurance is gonna be required. Maybe we need to, work through Nathan or something and find out, utilities. We'll put it all in the contract and see what we've got to make sure I'm able to do business in there and maybe store an additional hangar in there that would help me with my costs. If somebody's got a place that they're looking for to store a hangar for 2 or 3 months at a time, airplane, sorry, which allow me to sublet an empty spot if the other hangars are full. I don't want to compete with you, but if all your other T hangars are full and I've got an empty spot, I'd like to be able to rent that spot out to offset my cost. So some details like that, maybe we need to sit down and talk about those and see if we can work something out.
I mean, it's also beneficial for you to have all 4 at the same location. You said you had 2 at other places as well, which.
Yeah, it'd make it easier. It'd no doubt be more convenient, but walking from one T hangar to the next isn't the end of the world for me.
It's a little bit of a give and take because 4 separate T hangars, I open the door and I push the airplane out and we go fly. And if I have all 4 in one hangar,
Do you have 4 hangars here in Connersville?
We've got 2
we've got
between us.
2, and I
One in
think our
Middletown.
names on the list to get another. But if we put them all 4 in one, you got to push one airplane out to get to the one you want in the back, and you got to worry about hangar rash and damage, which is very expensive. So it's a little bit of a give and take where personally they like to have a big hangar. I'd like to have 4 separate ones because it's easier, convenient, and the electricity is paid. So it's kind of a little bit of a give and take. If the Quonset hut is empty and you can't rent it to anybody else because nobody has the business for that or that many airplanes, and it sits empty and you don't get the rent, no,
Well, we don't-
I'll say nobody's a winner. I don't know that.
We don't necessarily know that we can't get the Quonset hut rented. We haven't marketed for it, and we do have, we have plenty of, with Jeff running his aerial Dungan service, we can negotiate to say, hey, we're going to rent that for X amount of months. The one thing I look at is, you can make the claim that you got 4 airplanes and at 200, at 800, and so you want the Quonset hut for 800. But what happens when you put the 5th airplane in there? Now you're getting a deal.
It's also an overnight for
That it's iffy.
wintertime overnight.
Yeah.
We have that space available. bad
Heating
weather.
becomes a problem in the Quonset hut as well. And a T hanger, I can throw a torpedo heater on at the door and blow hot air in there and be able to work on the airplane. But Quonset hut presents another problem with heat. So like I said, it's got pluses and minuses with both of them.
So,
We'd like it to work for everybody, you know, that it's a good thing for the airport that they, you know, would be able to get rent out of something that maybe would have sat empty otherwise and then rent the other hangars, but
well, what I'm hearing is if the board is willing to accept 900 a month plus utilities, subject to,
Certificate of liability.
yeah, I mean, at minimum, us being named as additional insured. Is that what I'm hearing?
That's what I'm agreeing to.
Okay.
Is that, okay.
I mean, if that's agreeable to you, we can move forward.
We'll probably have to talk about it a little bit.
Okay.
And then your insurance requirements, we'll have to see what all do you need? You need a separate
Oh.
policy. Do you have a set of minimum standards that we?
Does our hangar keepers portion of policy cover what he's talking about?
I think I'd have to get the lease, wasn't it $1 million?
For hangar keepers? I thought we increased that, but maybe we did.
Yeah, I need to get the lease.
And then we could flip things maybe and name them as additional insured, or, yeah.
So the city maintains hangar keepers.
Yeah. Well, the city doesn't, but airport board does.
Yeah.
Well, which is a city, but
Your hangar keepers probably won't insure anybody except Duncan Ariel as the airport manager moving airplanes. Is usually how that works.
so they'd have to have a separate policy.
Right, and particularly if they're a commercial entity. Because the commercial entity is not gonna be covered under your hangar drivers, they have to have their own. Is what you see in most of the time.
Yeah.
Because it just, the airport has hangar keepers for if they're moving an airplane and they damage somebody's, you damage one of your tenants' airplanes. Duncan Ariel is a contractual operator of the airport for you, so they act as your agent. But another tenant is not necessarily your agent. They're their own thing.
Are the planes that the 4 planes, are those your planes or are they?
Now, what I'd like to do is if somebody has an airplane that needs worked on or has a annual that needs done, I can pull it in there and work on it. That's where I'd have tooling and with compressor and everything and easy to work on it in there versus dragging everything to another T hangar.
Would you need insurance for yourself to cover if you do anything wrong to that?
Yeah, I can get maintenance insurance for me, which is different than hangar keepers insurance. So the hangar keepers insurance is mostly for like what you guys do. You know, you've got a whole fleet of airplanes under one roof that you rent, maybe storage space, et cetera. If I've got 4 airplanes in that hangar that are somebody else's and I light off a fire and they all burn down, then that covers all those other airplanes. The only time I'd have another airplane that wasn't owned by me is if I was doing maintenance on it. And we pushed around, 3 airplanes in there?
If you get, 4 will fit.
We tried
If
to
you
play
get rid of that building in the back, you can
squares
make 5
airplanes.
beds.
Yeah.
But 4 is about the limit.
And so we put in the Swift, the Champ, the Lance, and then we tried every combination we could move airplanes around to see how many we could fit in there. If that office space was removed, we might squeeze in another airplane to make 5.
Also the helicopter, then you can do a helicopter because it could sit in the side.
Yeah, there's a helicopter.
I think they asked this question. Do you have minimum standards? I can't remember. I know you have rules and regs because that's required for your certificate. But if you have minimum standards, that usually lays out the rules for a commercial activity on an airport, which is a substantial difference from just renting a T hangar. Most of the time, a T hangar lease does not allow you to have a commercial activity in a T hangar. But the Quonset hangar is not a T hangar, so it would be leasable for commercial activity. So I think the rental rates would be different for a commercial activity versus just a storage space, because you have the ability to generate revenue off of the space. Where a T hangar, it's just storage. You can't do any maintenance activity in that spot. So that's, I think, why the rental rates should be slightly different. But if it's an aircraft maintenance shop, then I think the FAA would prefer to see that in there than just storage,
Right,
because you can generate, they have a grant assurance that says that they're gonna do everything they can to make the airport as self-sustaining as possible, so that it's not a drag on the community tax base. So if they have the opportunity to leverage additional revenue because of a commercial activity, then I think that's what the FAA would prefer you do than just rent it out for storage space. So that's, but I can't remember.
Who would we ask what type of insurance they would need?
What?
Just their maintenance, or would,
and is that something we should do or they should do?
that's some of my questions.
Yeah, I mean, normally that is at a minimum standards if you have it, but otherwise your insurance carrier could probably tell you what they recommend your tenants have in place. And they're gonna recommend whatever they need to be covered where your insurance stops. And I'm pretty sure your hangar carrier won't, your
Hangar keeper.
hangar keepers will not cover anybody but airport or its agent moving another person's airplane. That's usually where they draw the line. But if they just have if you're not running a business and you're just storing and you just have your own airplanes in there, then you don't necessarily need hangars keepers because they have each airplane's their own and it's insured. You only need hangar keepers if you're moving somebody else's airplane that you don't.
What if you, how soon are you planning on starting working on stuff? Because what if you could move in, get the airplanes moved so they're all in one spot, and while you're formulating a plan on insurance wise, and you can change things after the fact. I hate to stir the pot. What are we doing for people that need annuals now? Get them done in the hangars?
Most of them are doing them off site, aren't they? And I know some people are going to,
Fly off the field?
mhm.
I'd have to check and see what our club does. And then go from there. I mean, it's a good question. Yeah.
So if you get things set up where things are working, I don't wanna shine too much light on things and make something that's already working.
I think,
Not.
I mean, I can't speak for the entire board, but personally, I'm definitely in favor of you all renting out the Quonset hut. You've been doing a little side business of, some annuals and things like that. I think that's great, but ultimately we do have a fiduciary responsibility to the taxpayer. Or we just invested $100,000 of taxpayer money into this Quonset hut. And, it is being used for at least partially for commercial use, just as Paul has explained. And so, we also have a responsibility to the FAA as a regulatory board to make sure that we uphold certain standards and we can justify, well, if we got a T hangar is $200 and we got four of them, it's 800 and this is 800. And it's like, but you're using it for commercial purpose as well. I mean, I don't want any red flags or yellow flags from the FAA. And as far as the office space there, it's in the Quonset hut. I think we would be open to say, hey, we'll be happy if we want to remove those walls in the way you can get a fifth plane in there. I think we would be very open to that. We would be open to whatever you would need to do in order to be able to support, hey, can we take these walls down to get another plane in here and maximize the square footage? I would say yes, but I think for an extra $100 a month for what you're getting, I think is pretty fair in my book, especially since you're getting a brand new door. It doesn't seem like much, but I think that's It's a huge investment for that building.
Well, maybe we ought to, sit down and get in more into the details. Maybe I come up with a list of things that, again, pop into my mind as far as the insurance cost if now I have to have hangar keepers and the liability.
But only if you're running a business.
Only if I'm running the business.
So we could go phase one now and say, just rent the hangar for storage.
Yeah.
When you start your business, then we'd have to revisit it.
I think that's fair. Yeah.
And we'll probably have to go and talk about it and,
Sure.
get back to you. I don't think, is there no huge rush, is there?
I don't think
And
there's any.
then, but yeah, looking down the road before we get too invested, yeah, we'll make up, and I'll look into how much hangar keepers is, and I guess you guys do the same thing, and, but I don't, like you said, I'm sorry, I didn't get your name, I'm John Albright, but I don't think we met last go around.
Yeah, I'm Paul Schaefer.
I don't think that what the city maintains or whoever's paying the bill for the hangar keepers currently probably wouldn't cover me if I was doing my own business. And my business is gonna be so small scale, and I'm afraid that might be cost prohibitive. So it may just have to be, keeping my own airplanes in there for storage until, we got to the point where I can do something bigger, the numbers added up.
Mr. Mayor?
As far as annuals and things like that, yeah, like I said, if it's working and things are just getting done, I don't wanna muddy the waters and get things soured for somebody.
But they mentioned here to you.
Yeah.
There's several people
Yeah.
went to hangar
Yeah,
with jets.
okay, yeah.
One of them wouldn't fit. With a new door it might, but I don't know.
Okay. So you're gonna discuss this? and
Yeah,
maybe-
we'll talk about it and then I'll, maybe make contact with you and, say, here's some of the things that I'm concerned about or questions and I don't know if you have to have a forum to discuss any of this stuff or if I can send it to you and then you can pass it around, between now and the next meeting and, I think, yeah, you can ask me questions, I can ask you questions, we can go back and forth a little bit and then.
I think we see, as long as we keep open lines of dialogue between all board members, I don't think we have to have a quorum to discuss, although we can't. vote.
We can't make a
Take any
decision.
action.
Okay.
And
And then I won't drag out your 20-minute meeting to an hour.
Oh, it's fine.
Guys for that.
Well, I mean, if we don't talk about it, we don't know.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think we've had a good conversation, so it's every bit worth.
And if you have a set of minimum standards, then I think we are kind of obligated to follow that, whatever that is. And I don't know if you've got one or not. That'd be,
I don't remember us having, Paul, Tim, do you remember? What? Us having minimum standards?
that'd be what question for the airport district office. I'm not sure.
You would think that our office would have a copy if we do, or Boswell's office, but I don't know. They're not required. It's recommended.
Yeah.
Rules and regulations are required by the state of Indiana. So there's a copy of those posted at the airport, I'm sure, but oh boy. I can look in my file, my electronic file right now and see if I see anything.
Maybe you've done in the, maybe we don't have to reinvent the wheel. I think Hank said that he operated at a hangar years ago.
I think that statement is true.
Okay.
Years ago.
All right. So I don't know what arrangement he had or if he had signed a contract or something. Maybe we dig that out of a filing cabinet, take a look at it and
Again, I go back to years ago.
Unfortunately, I don't think I've seen it in
No, I don't
current file.
recall there being a formal agreement.
Unless, Nathan, if you have something there at the airport.
I mean, I can do some digging.
we'll I like to keep things as simple as possible. I know this is a hole that can get dug very, very deep, very quickly. That's not our intention. Things run very well out here. I don't want to disrupt the status quo But I want to make sure that it's financially feasible for me and you, and it's got to be fair. And I understand exactly what you're saying. You know, you're obligated to the city and the state to be self-sufficient to the extent that you can. And if all the numbers and everything add up, then great. But like I said, I don't want to dig a big hole for anybody. Keep it as simple as possible. And if it works, it works. If it doesn't, then we'll just continue as is.
Very good. Okay, thank you. Is there any additional new business? Let's move on to questions, comments from those in attendance, if any. And then the big one. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion.
Second.
We have a motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned. See you next month.
Next meeting.